Hi there, and welcome. This is Vince, and I'm an admissions advisor, counselor, and coach, talking today about 5 ways to fail the Wharton Team-Based Discussion. The first way to fail this new Wharton Team-Based Discussion is by showing poor logic. If your answer seems unclear, it means that you probably are underprepared or overconfident. I'm doing lots of Wharton interview training, and one thing I'm noticing in my initial sessions with my clients, both my comprehensive clients who I helped with essays and strategy, and my interview-only clients who are just contacting me when they get invited to Wharton interviews, a lot of them are, I think, underestimating the importance of this team-based discussion. Because Wharton also has the one-on-one discussion, they're assuming that they're focusing on the area that's more known, or that they assume there's more data for, which is a typical one-on-one interview. But I don't think this is a typical one-on-one interview. 45 minutes of the 1-hour experience is the team-based discussion. And so I think we could reasonably assume that it's 3/4 of the importance of the experience is what happens in that team-based discussion. That's my assumption. So you've got to show clear preparation, and before you walk into the Wharton interview, look, I don't think you should spend 15 hours preparing for the Wharton TBD, the team-based discussion, but I think you should spend at least an hour, as they suggest, or perhaps 2, having an answer that you feel confident about, that you can deliver effectively. I'm going to talk much more about that in a minute. So if you haven't prepared, or if you haven't shared your ideas with anybody, I think you're setting yourself up for failure. If you don't prepare your ideas well and get them checked by somebody before you share them with your teammates, it may be perceived by those teammates or by the evaluators that you lack analytical skills, which is a fundamental mistake and a reason to be denied by the program. If you don't have the ability to think logically, I wouldn't want to work with you in my Wharton team, and they wouldn't either. The solution is to know your material. I think what I mean by this effectively is, this is the advice I'm giving to my clients, and this is what I would do myself if I were going to participate in this activity, would be to choose a topic that I actually know well and that I could discuss comfortably for 45 minutes. Take a position, in other words, that you can support using personal examples from your actual experience. In terms of your logic, pick something that you believe in and be ready to defend it, but also be willing to acknowledge when you have forgot to think of something important. Admit your mistakes. I'll talk a lot more about that. That's fail number 2 in terms of teamwork fail. So for TBD prompt 1, as you know, the question asks you to tell them one key business skill that business leaders must have in order to be successful long term. So one key skill, if I were walking into my Wharton TBD, I would choose storytelling. It's what I do, what I've been doing for 20 years professionally in various capacities. It's something I believe passionately about, and I can share lots of examples. I think it is definitely one key business skill that leaders must have in order to be successful long term. First of all, let me define the term. Storytelling for me is the art or the skill of conveying important information in a way that will engage an audience. So right now, you watching this video are my audience, and I am doing my best to convey important factual information in a way that you can clearly understand and care about and do something with, I think, is another key part of storytelling. Providing information in a way that makes that information useful because the listener to that information or to that message is engaged at more than just an intellectual level. The reason it's a core business skill, well, first of all, in terms of a structure, how I would prepare this, I would define the problem as narrowly as possible. In terms of business leaders, needing this communication skill. And I can cite hundreds of examples anonymously of my clients over the years that have struggled. And before that, and my clients are all business leaders, and so I have an unfair advantage, and that's why I would choose this answer. I can really give lots of examples, both in admission situations and after graduation, in terms of actually reaching high executive levels where communicating messages, a failure to communicate messages in an engaging way that's sensible can result in serious business failures, both for the individual and his or her career, and also for the organization itself. The immediate cause, I would talk about why business, I would prepare a lot of thoughts in my mind, and I would list in my preparation reasons why business leaders might lack storytelling skills. They may lack storytelling skills because they never studied them, or because they've been so focused early in their career on developing specialized knowledge and skills in an area that has nothing to do with perhaps human communication. Or there may be incorrect perceptions about whether or not this skill is important, or ways in which this skill can be used on a daily basis. Perhaps someone simply has never prioritized it. I think that becomes a problem, again, according to the question, when someone moves into a senior position. Again, the question is talking about long-term career success. That's the main assumption that I'm using to claim and frame my answer. And I would talk about the effect. I think I would talk about things like, there's so much information available. There's perhaps too much information on the web and everywhere. The world is awash with data. The challenge then becomes making meaning of that data. I think we as humans we are overwhelmed with data, and we're craving meaning to the data. And I think also, as humans who are highly plugged into information, the reaction can be a bit of cynicism and skepticism. Healthy skepticism is smart, but I think overly kind of cynical views, I think it's a lost opportunity, and there's a lot of problems that aren't being addressed. So I definitely view storytelling in I view storytelling in a wide window, a wide range, but I view the problem of a lack of storytelling in some very narrow and specific areas where storytelling can be a problem. This answer that I just gave is not very good. I myself am not sure I'm ready for my Wharton team-based discussion. I am not invited. You are. So I'm taking a big risk with giving these examples. I hope you realize this. I'm just trying to simply show you how I'm thinking about this process. Hopefully you can do a lot better than I just did. TBD prompt number 2. The most important societal challenge that could be addressed more effectively by the business community today. Look, this one I think everybody's, from what I'm hearing, is even more anxiety producing than the previous one, because it's, people, this one, because Wharton's using this phrase, most important societal challenge. I think this is what's confusing a lot of you. I think a lot of you are confused that most important societal challenge is an absolute, like in the world. So my answer, if you ask me what's the greatest issue facing humanity today, in my mind, I would say climate change, actually, because it's so scary and so unknown and so unprecedented, at least in human history, modern human history. Anyway, we don't know how to deal with a warming planet or, significant changes. We're destroying our home and we don't have another one to go to. This is a big problem. But I'm not a scientist. I'm not going to talk about this at Wharton because I don't have any, I guess I'm fairly educated and I read as much as I can, but I couldn't talk about this intelligently for 45 minutes, so I would never choose this answer for Wharton. For Wharton, I would choose something I also care deeply about, that I actually know about, which is access to quality education. I ran an education nonprofit. I was a middle and high school teacher. I'm still involved in education today. I have a child, and I'm involved in his education. So I would say the biggest problem that business leaders could address is the fact that children, too many children around the world, in the developed and the developing world, cannot access the best education available. There's simply a lack of resources, or at least a perceived lack of resources. The effect of this is inequality, both inequality in education levels, and I think it could be argued, that there's an effect long term over about inequality about income. I think there's lots of studies, longitudinal studies about the relationship between education, especially early childhood education, and long-term, ability to participate in an economy and be productive in society and to feel as a member of society, to basically be able to make money in the world and be successful in a career and provide for one's family, etc. How business leaders can help, again, with my own experience running a nonprofit and raising money, I have lots of examples, because I was on the requesting end, begging money, basically we got money from the U.S. government, lots of money from the Clinton administration. We thankfully, thank you, Bill Clinton. We had money from local companies. This was in New Orleans. We had money as well from regional and multinational companies, as well as generous individuals and individual foundations. But in terms of corporate, leaders can provide time and money, mentoring. We had mentor programs where successful adults would teach our students some of the skills that they use every day, visiting real businesses, getting an understanding of what do people do, so that when a 12-year-old starts to say, what I want to be when I grow up, he or she has a realistic image of what those people actually do and the steps that they went through to get to where they are now, so that it becomes much more realistic. Time, money, and also in-kind resources. Businesses often have excess of things, and communities, children, parents often need those things in schools. For example, old computers. Business, Bloomberg or whatever, an investment bank has to have the best and the latest and the fastest. They have 2 years ago's computers, which to them is obsolete. To some school down the street or on the other, somewhere nearby, not too far away, there's somebody that could really use those computers. It's just an example. Businesses can generate goodwill, generate marketing essentially for themselves. Perhaps they can benefit from tax breaks, and also just a feeling of involvement and connection to the community, which is somewhat intangible. Society clearly benefits. Educated citizens, innovative workers, and dynamic communities. That's my answer for the social thing. I could talk about that for 45 minutes easily, and I'll compromise and admit that all kinds of other issues are equally important. I think in the team-based discussion, there's going to be a lot of give and take. But that would be my answer, and that's roughly how I would structure it. Again, too long, need to practice more. I'm going out on a limb by sharing my answers the best I've been able to do them, just again to give you something to compare to, because as I'm finding, and as you're probably noticing, there's not much data out there. So I'm giving you my answers. Please criticize them. They should be criticized, and that would be the point. I would prepare more than I have for this, for my TBD, and I would walk in with confidence that this is what I believe in, and also an open mind and a sense of humor and an attitude of openness to be challenged about my logic. But again, an ability to speak from my own experience and also kind of defend my idea and explain it as well without being defensive. The second skill, the second way to fail is teamwork fail. This relates to how you treat others. If you appear stubborn, inflexible, or argumentative, I think you're going to have a really hard time getting a good evaluation from the people in the Wharton TBD. The reason that people sometimes don't work well in a team, I think, often has to do with an incorrect assumption on their part that if you think you have to win, if you're a debater or you're a competitive athlete and you think that if your image in this is that there's going to be one gold medal winner, a silver and a bronze, this is not the Olympics. This is the team-based activity, so it's not win or lose. Hopefully it's win-win. One of you or more of you, hopefully in the team, hopefully all of you will get in, and it's also possible that none of you will get in, and you certainly won't improve your chances of getting in if you are coming across in a way that's designed to make other people look bad. So the way to change it is basically, as I've already said, go in with an open mind, welcome other people's comments and challenges. If you want to challenge someone else, do so without saying you're wrong. Ask questions about what they're saying. Have you thought about this? What about that? Does your example fit? In my case, are businesses really the best people to impact early, childhood education? Isn't that the role of government? Yes, you're right. It's very much the role of government. I'm simply saying that businesses can and should be more involved because governments have limited resources. And also, I think leaving this entirely to the government robs both sides of an opportunity, both the community and the citizens and the students, as well as the business people themselves, of the opportunities to interact. Anyway, I would defend my idea and also acknowledge the point that someone else made. All right. A couple other hints here. 3 more, and this video will end. Vocal fail. A way to fail in terms... So we've talked about logic of what you say, and we've talked about your attitude in terms of how you work with others. Vocal fail is usually you just talk too fast. In my video, I'm excited, passionate, and doing my best to prepare this information, but I've sped up a couple of times in my video. You've probably noticed as soon as I'm aware of it, I try to slow down. The more confident I am in my material, the more easy it is for me to speak clearly and effectively. The same is true for you. Practice is the answer. The other thing that I do all the time is I say, so then we think this is helpful to fill up the space, the silence. It's not. I was silent just then, and I'm hoping a lot of you watching this video in that moment of silence actually leaned in a little bit, unless I've totally lost you and you've already turned off this video. Silence can be your friend if you use it effectively. It's much better than verbal junk, just all the time. Not easy to fix this, by the way. Slow down is the answer, and practice is the answer. And also, one more hint. This is hard to do in a team-based discussion, but before you open your mouth, articulate or say the idea in your mind before you say it out loud. Okay. The 4th fail is a body language fail. It just means this, I want to tell you something, or pointing, aggressive body language, or perhaps, I think it's less likely because you're going to be really nervous, but some of us, when we get nervous, we shrink. This kind of body language, getting really small. Either one is ineffective because it makes you look insecure. Unconscious, we don't know we're doing this. Practice for your TBD in front of a mirror and notice the frame of the box of the, get one of these little makeup mirrors. If you're a guy, borrow one or buy one. If you're a woman, you may already have one. That's a gendered biased thing. I apologize if that offended you. But anyway, a mirror that sits on a table where you can see your whole face and a bit of your body, and have your little note card with your 3 problem, cause, and effect for your TBD answer, and give your answer and notice. I'm American, I'm Italian American, so I love to use my hands, but too much, too big, and it looks like you're drowning or calling for help, or that you're attacking somebody. So you've got to keep your body language within a reasonable bounds of the frame of a mirror, or in this case. And I break this rule all the time, and you'll get excited. But I'm saying be aware of your body language. A little statistic that I can't exactly cite the sources of, but I've some people say it's as high as 90. I think it's 60 to 70%. But basically, meaning is taken from body language and nonverbal communication. This can be proven anecdotally, or talking the way we talk to a puppy dog, a pet, or a little baby who's 3 months old or 1 month old who doesn't have language ability at all. The way we look when we're talking to them is much more important than what we're saying, because they don't understand what we're saying. Humans, it's the same thing, even for adults who have full language capability. How you look when you talk is important, so be aware of it. All right, the last thing here is this is a failure of perspective where you basically lose sight on what is at stake. You've been invited to a Wharton interview. Maybe you weren't invited to a Harvard interview, or maybe you weren't invited to a Stanford interview, or maybe you, whatever. Maybe you don't have any other option at the moment other than Wharton. Don't let that make you feel desperate, because if you feel desperate, you will look desperate, and no one likes someone who's desperate. It has the opposite effect of what you want, okay? Take a step back and remember you have options. Just a second. If you've been invited to Wharton, it means you could get into some top school at some point. There's always next round, there's always next year. You may not feel that way at the moment, but if you look back on your life 20 years from now, this is one of the important moments in your life. It is not life or death. So talk to a friend or a mentor, someone, a close, trusted family member, or someone who's known you your whole life. Get a little bit of perspective from an older, wiser person about what's at stake here, so that when you walk in the room, feel like you've already been admitted to Harvard, right? And this is just a trophy for you. Or you really want to get into both schools and actually you want to compare them, having been admitted and attending the Admit Students Weekend. So hypnotize yourself or convince yourself that this is, play defense a little bit rather than playing aggressive offense. I really need this. It's not attractive, and it's unconsciously something we as humans notice and unconsciously resist and avoid. So go into this process as if you've already been admitted. Try to have fun in the team-based discussion. Go in with an open mind, an open attitude. And the way to have an open mind and an open attitude is to practice. Please let someone listen to your short summary of TBD Prompt 1 and TBD Prompt 2. Share this with someone you respect and trust and get their feedback. You will be very grateful if you go in there having practiced this not only in your head or in your mirror, but also with a live human who's clever and can poke some holes in your logic, so you can anticipate some of the things that'll happen. A couple little small points, and then I'm going to end this video. Thanks for your time and attention. These sound like stupid little common sense things, and maybe they are, but these are things I try to remember every single day, and I always forget. When you're in the Wharton TBD, when you're in a stressful situation, remember to smile once in a while. Not panic all the time like deer in the headlights smile, but once in a while, don't be afraid to not look terribly serious or worried. Again, this relates to your attitude and your inner feelings about the whole situation. And the other one, which I think is absolutely a universal and sounds like common sense, but we forget all the time. Breathe. Don't sigh. But if you feel yourself rushing, performing, speaking in public, whether it's 5 or 6 people around a table, or even in a one-on-one situation, or to an audience of 100 or 1,000 or 1,000,000, speaking in public is one of the highest stress-inducing activities known to humanity. The solution is right here in your diaphragm, where your brain needs oxygen. Again, this is like your mother's common sense advice, but I'm just going to point it out. It's the solution for all kinds of the problems that I mentioned up above. So remember to breathe, remember to have fun. Good luck with your Wharton TBD, and thanks again for watching this video. Bye-bye.